And um, hi, and
Hi,
how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for agreeing to come. And of course, I'm excited to talk to you and have a conversation with you. As I was describing, she's an author and also, put it lightly, she's also a light worker. And I'm going to need you to explain that more to me and to our audience. And also, she's helped countless businesswomen grow their business and hone in on their calling. And of course, get to a place where they can do more than just earning a dollar. She's more about let's connect to your soul, let's connect to your spirit, and get to people because we all need some kind of help. And as far as I'm concerned, go to someone who can help you or guide you through this journey. And I can't wait for her to tell us more about what she's been doing and her journey. Welcome. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you so much. Gosh, it's so much wrapped up, but there's so much to uncover. And I have to say, it's been quite the journey, quite the
Of
journey.
course, of course. And I'm excited. First of all, describe what exactly you do.
Well, probably like many of you, I worked in corporate America for a long time, for over
Mhm.
2 decades. And even with a lot of great experiences and accolades, I still had a calling for something more. I would
Yes.
even describe it at times like I felt I was on a hamster wheel, not really sure where I was going, but I was in such a
Wow.
hurry to get there. Uh, and I feel like many of us are trying to figure out the bigger why and how
Yes.
our days and tasks fit into all that. And
Hmm.
where I am now, which I just turned 50, so where I am now is much different than where I
Congratulations.
was.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Which is very different from where I was at 40 and 30 and 20. But I needed all of those steps to
Yeah.
bring me to a place where I'm much more present and listening to my whispers than was in the past when I was so busy delivering and doing and saying yes and making it happen. And I feel like I needed every one of those steps to get here. But
Yes.
now that I'm here, I find myself sharing the wisdom, the tools, the strategies to
Yes.
really work from the inside out.
I love that. That is, I think, the goal for humanity to figure out what we are here for. And then once you figure that out, pass it on, share
Mm,
it, tell
yeah.
everyone. And yes, it may sound like we're beating an empty drum, but we know what it is and we know the drum is full. And so that's why we are ready to share it. And I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and we have something called a talking drum. And this talking drum, back before we had Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Lord knows what else is out there,
Right.
we used to announce a message through drumming.
Mm,
And they would take the talking drum. If the king wants to say something to the people, they would tell this talking drummer to go, and he goes on a hill and he just drums this drum because the drum is full of messages. And that's what I see all of us doing, because when I hear what you're doing, you're beating the talking drum to teach the village, but you're not just teaching the village to just hear and go, but move. Listen to that whisper and move, because it's actually a nudge from within.
that is so beautiful. And I believe, wisdom comes in all formats, but if you're not in the present moment, you'll likely miss it.
Yes, yes, and that's the truth. And I keep telling, anytime I have my clients, and I was like, you know what we have to do, and they're like, yeah, I know, we have to be present. And I was like, yes, presence is where everything is, because most of the time people are running to
It's
the
hard. I mean, when you think about it, it's really hard because we are taught to deliver, we're taught to do, we're taught to get it done. And to do that, you have to be prepared. And to be prepared, you often have to think through the steps. And to think through the steps, you have to keep busy in your mind.
Yes.
So how we've been trained to be successful in life in I should say in corporate America, the business world, which is a lot of masculine energy,
Yes.
doesn't always serve us in self-fulfillment.
No, it doesn't. And we are seeing how things are unraveling now.
Yeah, it's just about time. Just about time. But I love the drum, and anyone who hasn't been to a drumming circle or been to a class that has a drum, gosh, put it on your list, because I even put it on my book cover. I
What?
even have in this top sticky, you might see it says drumming circle at 8:00.
Oh my gosh. That's
Because I love drumming circles, because it's really the time. I love sing bowls too, but I really love drumming circles because I
yes.
feel like the drum can really get on the insides immediately. Like you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you can feel almost like the cells, the fibers, your organs with the drum.
Yeah,
And I am a big believer of what you do off the side of your desk. And so
I
even though
agree.
you might be working every day, but finding time to do stuff off the side of your desk. And one of my favorite things is drumming.
I love it. And that's the beauty about drumming, because drumming, um, I was, because growing up in Ghana, West Africa, drumming is all around you. And especially my grandmother used to take me to this drumming thing that they used to do. I wish I knew the name, but they used to do this on Sundays after church. And the women will get together and they'll start clapping and singing, and then they start tapping on the drums. And by the time it's taking over, and it's just drumming. And I was like, when I was little, I used to think, doesn't anyone find this noisy? Because in the beginning it sounded like a lot of noise, and then once I started listening and resonating with the drums, and I remember my grandma telling me, pick out the lead drum. It's the dominant drum among all of them, and then focus on that. You begin to realize that your heart moves with that drum. And when that drumming keeps going, she said, you begin to leave all the stuff that holds you bound. And all you feel is just the drum and your heartbeat. And once I listened to that, and then when my great grandmother, I went to her and then she wanted me to dance for her and I couldn't dance. She was mortified. She cried. And she said, did anyone ever teach you about listening to the lead drum? And I said, well, you don't have any drum here. It's just your hands going. So I don't know what to do. And she said, okay, I'll teach you. So she started teaching me, and she said the same thing. Listen to the lead drum. It'll guide you. And because your heart will be moving as one with it, you literally anticipate the next move. And then you go with it. So drumming is very powerful.
Well, it's powerful, and I just love listening to the lead drum because you're the lead drum. We're the lead drum. Listen to your inner wisdom. That is
Yes.
your lead drum.
Yes. Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And of course, like I said, when I read your information, I said, wait a minute, she's onto something. How did you come about recognizing that whisper within you? Because it's happening to everybody, but a lot of us ignore it. So how did you come about to zero in on that?
Well, I think that life has a funny way. Sometimes in the tarot, they talk about the tower card. In other different modalities, they talk about like everything falling to shit. And I think oftentimes when that happens, you're left with yourself. And
Yeah.
I just had a series of things, not monumental, my whole, I didn't have monumental things. I just had a series of small little things that just kept falling apart time after time after
Yes.
time
Mhm.
until I'm sitting weeping by myself saying, all right, I'm ready. Like, show me the way. I obviously am not in my swim lane. I'm not doing what I chose to do when I came down in the planet. So, higher being, show me the way.
Yes.
And it didn't come immediately. And in fact, it didn't even come to me like wasn't like a spark out of the sky or a message in a book. I actually ended up going to therapy
Mm-hmm.
because I was just feeling just so down and just couldn't really find my joy, even though I had so many accolades and things that people would say, you're so successful and you've done this, but I just wasn't feeling it. And
Mm-hmm.
after a couple of sessions, she told me, every session I have to go to mindfulness training. And like the third session, she's like, you go to mindfulness training, but don't come back until you start. Because,
Oh my.
and honestly, I write about her as one of my guides in life because I was kind of annoyed that she was so adamant about me going. I was like, how dare you? But in hindsight, she was one of my guides. She was one of my angel guides on earth that
Yes,
really knew that I had to get in the present moment for anything to happen.
that's
And
right.
that happened back in 2016. And it took me almost the entire year to really understand the practice of mindfulness and being present
Yes.
because my doer mind, my overachiever self,
Yes.
my perfectionism wanted to be like think around it,
Mm-hmm.
using my head. And it wasn't until I really gave myself the space, which took a while because I'm stubborn, to really feel the being in the present moment.
That's
And
right.
once that came together, which took me almost a whole calendar year, most people it takes 8 sessions, me a whole calendar year. Uh,
That's okay.
yeah, it took me a long time. I feel like my whole world opened up because
Yes.
now I trusted my inner drum.
Mm-hmm.
Let me back that up. I wouldn't say I trusted it, but I was more aware of it. And
Okay.
I
That's good.
listened to it a little bit more. It took years to really trust it. I feel like I'm just really now stepping into that trust circle with myself and my inner voice
Mm-hmm.
on a full-time basis.
That's amazing. And I hear what you're saying about when the inner voice is happening and you're not used to trusting or even believing that inner voice.
Yeah.
It becomes a hindrance. You get in your own way. And I hear people tell me, sometimes in session, I would tell a client, just surrender. They were like, ooh, what did you just say? And I'm like, surrender to that which is within you. And they go, well, I just don't like the word surrender. It's a little too much. And I'm like, okay, how about maybe another word? Give permission. They're like, yeah, I feel better that way. And I realize that we have become, well, so far, what I've recognized, humanity has become sticklers to wanting to know before we jump. We want to know how the outcome is going to be. And because of that, it's hard for us to trust that inner voice. I get people tell me, well, how do I know it's true? And how do I know this is supposed to be my voice? So, how did you differentiate that?
Well, first and foremost, one of the biggest things I learned from my mindfulness training that was part of John Kabat-Zinn's classes is that the ego is the prominent voice. It's not the prominent drum, it's the prominent voice.
That's
So the
right.
prominent voice of the ego will always be the first to answer. And
Yes.
so regardless if you're making a plan to do something fun or we're thinking about a job move or you're starting to think about doing something different, whatever it is, even
Yes.
if you're just thinking about like just writing something down, your voice will come in almost immediately. So it's like the voice that you hear that usually is not supportive. So that's not going to work. Who do you think you are? You're crazy. You're not trained for that. How do you know how to do it? Whatever is sort of encouraging you not to step forward is usually your ego.
Yeah.
And what mindfulness helped me do is one, to be in the present moment of just really recognizing like how my fingers feel, how my nose, touching my nose feels, tapping my toes, very simple things. Once
Yes.
I'm in that present moment, I can think of something I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then I just wait a second to see how my mind reacts. And generally, it's just nonstop chatter. So once I realize that I have this nonstop chatter of the ego,
Mm-hmm.
then I have to center myself. And sometimes it's easy as just pulling the energy from my head down in my heart and let my idea sit there for a little bit. Sometimes it's a few minutes, sometimes it's 24 hours, but I give myself permission to feel into what I want to do.
Yes.
rather than allowing my head to like start making to-do lists.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I got started on things that didn't really ground yet or center yet. I mean, now I
Mm.
even go outside if I have like, if I want to do a retreat, you know, and I have the idea to do it, it's come to me. I want to validate it. Sometimes I just go out on my front porch and say it out loud. And I
Yeah.
generally can even get a reaction from nature. You know, either the birds will chirp louder, there'll be a gust of wind, the sun will shine a different way. So I really feel like if you're onto something you want to do and you're not sure you can do it, ground it in your heart,
That's
speak it
right.
to the universe, sit in nature and talk about it, and then wait for how you feel.
That's right. I agree. And that's the gist of it. Because if we rush, chances are we end up doing something that we regret.
Or you just do so much work you don't need to do.
Yes. And so that waiting is so crucial. Give yourself the permission to be present and have the patience to wait and listen. That listening, have you found that to be one of your driving forces?
Well, the listening definitely happens a lot more now because I'm not so much in a rush. I don't have predetermined expectations about things, and I'm not
Oh,
like focusing so much on the past or planning for the future. I really try to be in the moment as much as I can. Now,
mhm.
I'm a business owner, so I still have to get things done. But
Of
I would
course.
say in the moments that I'm just in the moment, even just driving, you know, just keeping the radio off, keep the phone off. You know, I'm not watching the news. I'm really trying to harness and stay inside like an energy or a frequency that's positive, uplifting, and
Yes.
nourishing to me and the people I connect with.
Hmm.
So that takes a lot of practice, and I work on it every day. But I do hear things now that come to me like just in January, right in beginning of
Uh-huh.
January, I
Yes.
was moving through life and I got a message to host a retreat on February 5th and even the practitioner I should do it with.
Hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, as soon as I heard it out, my ego's like, oh no, there's no time. You can't do it. She's going to say no. You know, and my mind just starts telling me, okay, so now I'm at a class with her
Hmm.
and I keep saying, ask her, ask her, ask her, ask her. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. So I ask her and it's about 3 weeks out and I say, hey, Tracy, you know, would you ever think about doing a retreat with me up at the lake at Lake Erie? And she's like, oh yeah, that'd be great. You know, let's wait till it gets warm. So I'm putting my bolster away and I'm thinking, well, the universe has other plans. It's going to be February 5th. So I come back out of that room and I come over and I'm like, well, yeah, summer would be great. I said, but what do you think about February 5th? And then I just wait. I don't say anything else because I know the date's not mine. I know this is like, I know the universe is working with me and through me.
Yes.
And so she's like, well, let me check because I'm really busy on Sundays. I go, okay, yeah, that's great. She goes, you would not believe it, but I am available February 5th. And
Yeah.
I just have
You
to
get
laugh to
canceled.
myself. Yeah, and my ego's like, well, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to say? Like all this stuff. And my spirit or energy within, my light within says, you know, she'll know, she'll know. So she goes, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, well, what do you think? And she knew. She just like, I got my, like, she started just talking. I'm like, wait, let me get my phone. Let me start taking notes because I have to do a whole page and you
Yes.
know, the whole invite. So I feel like it's coming to me more and more now because I know it is the voice from within because it's really not something I would have an idea about. It comes to me
Right.
randomly and it's something that is beyond what I'm thinking about. And so
Yes.
I've started to lean into those messages more often.
Good. And also, I wanted to ask you because I hear people tell me this. How did you recognize that voice without being scared? Because people, I deal with people and they will say, it scares me. What is that? It's scary. So, how did you stop yourself from not being scared?
Well, I'm still scared. I mean, sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? Is Tracy going to think I've lost my mind? I don't even really know her that well. I'm going to ask her to do this event with me in 3 weeks. So I still like am scared because my ego makes me scared. And it
Yes.
makes me feel like it's going to be a failure. And even when I'm hitting the publish button on the page for the retreat, like I'm like, oh, this is never going to work. No one's going to sign up. I mean, I still have that constant negative voice in my head. But I just have to trust that my light is brighter than that voice.
That's
And
right.
that if I'm being guided to do stuff, that I am being held in the energy of the universe, the loving nature of a purpose bigger than myself. And at
Yes.
this point, I believe that. And I am here to execute on why I came down to the planet, and the universe
Yes.
is guiding me. And
Yes.
those guides come through ideas, voices, interactions, things I hear unexpectedly. And it
Hmm.
continues to put the puzzle pieces together of where and how I should show up.
Hmm. And I think that's the most important part is recognizing the guide and the nudging and then going for it. It's powerful because that's where the fun begins.
That is the truth. And honestly, you have to do the work to get there. It's not like you can
Yes.
just decide right this minute, okay, come on, boys, let's go. Let's go. It's not going
Yeah.
to happen that way. You've got to do a lot of self discovery. And I actually have visited 50 energy practitioners
Oh gosh.
just before I wrote this book, Seeking. But I probably now it's 100. And the whole goal of meeting with different energy practitioners is to learn about myself.
That's
And,
right.
yeah, and I've done the Myers Briggs, I've done the Strength Finders, I've done all the corporate. Let me tell you what kind of work you like to do, which has all been very insightful. But for me, when I was at a point where I was like, who the heck am I? I needed a deeper wisdom. And
Yes.
so I started with tapping. And then I went to, meditation and mindfulness. And then I did some energy work with different practitioners about releasing old stories, old history, past lives.
Yes.
Then I've done astrology, I've done human design, I've done astrocartography, I've done, Abraham Hicks work. And listen, it's not for everybody. And I'm not suggesting it is, but I was so curious of who I was and why I'm on the planet that
Hmm.
I was like, let me see what this is all about. And
Hmm.
like anything else, I take a little bit of everything to
Yes.
really create my own plan.
Hmm. I'm glad you did that because it allowed you to hone in on where you're going and not have any worries because you saw the progression each time you paid attention. So you saw the progression, you're like, oh, okay, what's next?
Yeah, and I feel like if people come to me, even I did an amazing session on Friday because a woman I met in 2006 was coming to the retreat. And she's like, I really want you to meet this woman, Kathy. She was in tech. Now she's a psychologist. And now she has an intuitive knowing that she uses to do sessions with her clients. And I'm like, I want to check it out.
Hmm.
So I am always open to new practices. And I feel like a lot of it is really just getting to know myself.
Hmm.
And even though a lot of religious practices have made these energy practices, off limits, I feel like a lot of them are really rooted in feminine energy and nurturing the soul. And so I feel really drawn to these practices. Of course, I
Hmm.
use referrals and I have a community together, we seek online, that has all the practitioners I've worked with and I trust and have worked with multiple times to make it easy for women to seek this out
Yes.
because it is against sometimes what we've been taught. And I feel like we have to do a little bit of unwinding
Yes.
um, this masculine energy to tap into our feminine knowing.
That's right. And then now that you recognize that we needed to unravel this and then tap into this feminine energy, how have you began to make this the goal for women who comes to you?
Well, I think the goal was defined well before I got here. So I do believe that I am like a spiritual energy connector, a leader in the spiritual space to bring all these pieces together to more normalize this for women.
Yes.
I started with the women in tech community
Hmm.
since 2008. That's, almost 10,000 women. And even though that was wonderful, I feel like some of the women from those groups are like, well, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? So I had to do all these steps with other communities, other books, other activities to bring me to this point now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like all of that was really practice for the work that I'm doing now.
Wonderful. And then I know I have a lot of questions because I'm curious. And also, what I want to know is this. You can share this with the audience, of course. How do you think this impacts your trajectory into your own life from where you started? And now, where has this impacted your trajectory completely? Do you think like it's done it's a complete 180 or it's just a nudging?
It's an opening. Like I feel like I almost took off my astronaut suit to step into my light suit.
Mm. In other words, you recognize that you were living a life and moving towards a place that was not fulfilling you. And then when you started on this journey, you recognize that, wait, now I can step into my real shoes, my real me, and be the being that I'm meant to be.
Yeah, I was held down by so much shoulds, coulds, woulds, have tos, and just my to-do list alone that I was just sinking in so many ways. And so when I started to unload a lot of that stuff literally off the side of my desk, I mean, I've been working through this for the last 15 years
Mm-hmm.
off the side of my desk, which was going to be the original title of my latest book. But I found that a lot of people didn't know what I meant until now that I describe it. So the book's called Seeking because I was seeking for something more, but I
Yeah.
couldn't do it full time. And so it was through classes and YouTube videos and discussions. And little by little, that energy kind of fell behind me. And I actually like walked into like this beautiful
Yes.
light
Yes.
and flowing clothing, like as though I'm part of the flow.
Yes. Yes. And flow that's happened. And it's powerful because when we are struggling for so long and we join and see the flow, for lack of a better word, because this is the only way I could explain it, it's the closest thing I could explain, it becomes easy in the sense that you realize that you're no longer fighting. You join without reservation of, but I should, but I should, but no, really just let go. Have you found that you get that even if not daily or weekly? How has that become a thing for you?
Yeah, and my ego is constantly trying to be my ego is constantly trying to be center stage, so it's
Yes.
constantly trying to throw me back into this. You should be there. You have to do this. You're going to be left out. No one's going to do this. No one thinks this. This fear-based energy. And so I often have to just stop it in its tracks and be like, I got this. I got this.
Mm. Silencing the ego.
Yeah, and it has it step down for a few seconds, and then I often put my hand on my chest or my heart and just be like, lead with love, lead with love, lead with
Right.
curiosity, lead with wanting to know and learn. So that's the first thing for sure. But through that, I've lost a lot of relationships or people that knew me then because they don't understand how I'm showing up now. I don't even understand it sometimes, but I just know that it's a different frequency. And when I talk about
Yes.
frequency, it's like the energy you reside in. So you could be at a 94.9 on the radio station or 98.7 or 102.7. It doesn't matter, but like you have to be comfortable at the level or station that you're at.
Yes, I agree. And that's the situation I keep recognizing more and more. Because when we try to elevate to that level of energy and the frequency, and then we step into it and we start seeing it, ego has a strange way of making you doubt that and comes with a list. Remember when you couldn't, you remember you said this, well, remember the last time? Have you seen that? Who do you think you are? How is this happening? Why do you think this is right? You're just fooling yourself. And throughout all that time, you start recognizing something. Those that you thought were in your circle, what do they start doing? It
Yeah, they can,
starts.
yeah, fading away or telling you why you're not the same, and then they fade away.
Yes. And the fade, I call it, they are not prepared to go with you through this journey because they haven't done their own work to shed all that stuff, that ego embed onto them, and let them get way down with it. So they get distracted not to seek more. Because of that, and it's so strange, the universe has a way of removing them. I used to get very upset when I recognize, okay, where I'm moving to or where things are going, and then I lose people that I felt are my people or my corner or my person. They start
Yeah.
moving away. I used to get very upset until I recognized that, wait, they're not ready to go with you. So there has to be a way for them to remove themselves because they can't resonate with where you're going and where you're standing and elevating to. They cannot move there because you can only go there if you shed. And so when you realize that, how was the pain?
It hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, it hurts. It hurts because and whether this is a significant other, a family member, a friend, a decade old friend, or a lifetime friend, it hurts. It still hurts. But
Yes.
I wouldn't change my journey to save that because I know that
Mm.
I am moving through my own journey and this is just part of it. But I wish somebody told me that when it was happening. I mean, I had to learn that
Yeah,
a
we
long
never
time
find out.
after.
We never
Yeah.
find out until it's happening and the pain. And of course, what would you tell those who experience that? They want, the mourning hasn't happened. So they want to try and recreate that person again or their relationship again and reconnect with them and bring it back.
I would say, let it go, let it go.
Yes, because it's a tough one.
It is tough. It is tough. And even some of the ones that were super meaningful, it took me months of tears, but now on the other side of it, it made so clear, like I had to let that go for me to evolve and move to the next level of my lessons, learnings, and experiences. And that energy was at a frequency I was not at anymore.
Yes, yes, that's the truth because when you move out there and or to that level, it's almost like what you find interesting to even engage in a conversation with doesn't resonate with anyone that you knew. And those who decided to leave because they couldn't adjust themselves to accept where you were.
Yes. And it's going to happen. If you're evolving, if you're doing the inside work, the outside will shift. It's just inevitable. And listening to us now, you might not know what that means right now, or maybe you're going through that right now, or maybe you've been through that. Knowing that it creates space for new energy, new experiences, and
Yes.
honestly, new relationships.
Yes. Yes. And there was a thing I did sometime last year, and I said, love cannot be invited in a place of hate and chaos. And if an individual is at war with himself, how can they invite love into that space? Love will not reside in a place of hate. So until we work through that, grow from that, then embrace love, love will truly welcome itself in a space of love.
That is
Now,
the truth. That is the truth. But most of our hate starts with ourselves.
yes, yes. And the other day I was talking to someone and they said, that person is so mean. And I said, I promise you that mean has nothing to do with you.
No, I
And they
tell
were
my
like, oh,
kids
they
that
said this,
too.
they said that. And I was like, I know they said all those things. They are just informing you the pain they're in.
That's what
When
I
you
tell
told
my
your
kids
kids that,
too, all the
what did they
time,
say?
because
When you told your kids that, what did they say?
oh, they think I'm crazy. They're like, oh, mom, that's not true. But I'm like, it's nothing about you. Like, this has nothing to do with you. This is their own journey and the voices they have in their head that they happen to say outside, And I just feel like all of us are struggling with self doubt. All of us, some of us struggle with self hate, and
Yes.
few of us have self love, like real self love. And I feel like I'm still on that journey.
Hmm.
And again, the energy practices of spending time with myself and finding out, like, do I have energy in my shoulder? What's going on with my hip? What's happening in my ankle? Everything that's inside of us is energy, and it's generally based on the stories we are bearing in our bodies.
Yes. Yes. And I think I spoke to someone last year, and the person was like, my throat. Every time I try to speak, my throat. Then I said, who silenced you? And I said, who silenced you? Who put their hands there and stop you? Who told you you couldn't speak? And the sad part is you believed it and you took it. And the client was like, what? How do you know that? And I was like, you just told me your throat. And she said, well, how could you say all that from that? And I was like, well, you gave me the answer. I'm just going with what you are experiencing. And then she's like, it's like you were there. And I was like, I wasn't there, but you just showed me, you just told me. So I keep expecting people to understand that the pain in their body is not just a pain on their body or in the body. It's a message. Wake up and
It
deal
is.
with this. And when you meet your clients and you tell them or you direct them to look within for why that pain is coming from and where they first experienced it and how that resonates with the body now, what do they respond to you?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends where the client is on their own personal journey and how aware of they are of like energy and how it all kind of fits together. We're all energy. Money's energy, we're energy, our
Oh,
relationships are
yes.
energy, and we harbor energy and we
Mhm.
harbor the stories of the
Yes.
energy that happened from the time we were young. So, all I can do and what I've done a lot in my work is just show them how I've moved energy around through my stories and then prompt them to inquire,
Hmm.
what might that energy be? Just like you were suggesting, where is that coming from? Why do you feel like you cannot talk? What is going on with your throat? And some people might believe that it maybe even came in with them too. And a lot of our lessons repeat themselves just with different
Oh, yes.
people.
Yes.
So it's just, really asking yourself, like, what lesson are you in right now? And who's trying to teach it to you?
I love that. It's a very powerful question. And I can't wait to hear more and more people watch this and then ask themselves that question and address it. Because honestly, once you start addressing that question, brace yourself. You have to be honest. I think, honestly, realizing how to be vulnerable to self is key. When you became vulnerable to yourself, what was the first thing that you recognized?
How alone I felt.
Mm, you felt disconnected.
Yeah, because I was working out of here, not my third eye. I was working out of here instead of here. And I
Yes.
didn't feel like I was really connected to something bigger than myself. And I felt like I had to do it all myself. And all of that was
My.
happening up here.
Oh my. All by yourself. That would be heavy and tough.
It was. It was. Hence why I ended up at a therapist's office. I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, go to mindfulness. I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. I'm not doing that. I have a serious issue. I need a serious solution. She's like, I gave it to you. Now go. And it was like kind of this bantering back and forth. Like my ego was not letting me lean into something that I didn't know what it was about because I thought it wasn't going to be helpful. And thank goodness that she was really just so adamant about it. And that's why I call her one of my angel guides, because had she not really told me 3 times to go to class and insist that I go if I wanted to come back, then I would have never
Oh
gone.
my.
And I
She
probably
poured
would
it
have
on the line.
self-combusted or ended up in a hospital bed
Oh,
because I was depleted.
and so when you swell depleted, as my grandmother's word, she said, the emptiest barrel makes the loudest noise. How did you make your noise?
Hmm. I don't know if it was like essentially noise to other people, but it was noise with myself, meaning like you've got to heal yourself. You've got to like yourself. You've got to figure out how to believe that you're worth it. Believe that you have something even more to share than you've already shared. And I feel like it was more about rattling my own cage
Mm-hmm.
than others. And that's really what took me on the journey of self, exploration. And because I started going to some energy practitioners with my mom when I was 12, that's where I went back to. And I'm like, gosh, I need to feel from the inside out. I need to understand why I'm holding all this energy and what is holding me back from the inside out. And
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't start my life's work per se. Now, granted, it was all leading up to this. So I
Yes.
was in my life's work, but I didn't like dive into the work from the inside out
Mm-hmm.
until I was in my early 40s.
Oh, wow. Well, that is the around, 40s, late 30s, 40s, around that time in our years here on this plane, this earth school. I honestly believe that's when we get the knocking. Hello, you've pretended enough. It's time to be active now. It's time to get serious. Let's do the work. And in the words of Dr. Wayne Dyer, it's time to grow up.
Yeah. It's time
The
to step
growing,
in. Right.
yes, yes, the growing up for you. When you got there, did you recognize it that that was what was happening?
I don't know if I recognized it when I was in it in my early 40s, but I was desperate to get away from where I was. And I
Mm,
really felt like I needed to live a different kind of life. I just didn't know how to do it. And so the only way I knew how to just start learning about myself is to go inward, listen to books, pay attention to what I'm watching,
mm,
talk to people that are talking about meaningful experiences, meaningful information. So I feel like it took me a long time to sort of get out of my own way, but I knew that I had to be mindful of how I talked to myself,
mm-hmm,
what I talked about, what I read and listened to, and who I interacted with. I mean, those
mm,
really were the 4 things that I had to really be cognizant and present with.
mm-hmm,
And once I started doing that, I felt like I really was more of like a seeker of, okay, I'll try this and I'll try that and I'll try this. And now 7, 8 years have gone by and I'm finally just really settled. Like I don't feel like I have to run around anymore. I feel very settled in the work that I'm doing, but it's been a long time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I believe you. And I think that's the biggest part of it. Patience to know that the ride or this developing and this evolving is not something we just go through in a day. Oh, okay, I'm done. Let me move on to the next. Good luck.
Yeah.
It will work that way. And
Mm,
this day and age where everything is so readily, we are constantly seeking everything fast, quickly, that instant gratification. How do you connect with someone who walks in like that, wanting because they've developed this behavior for so long and they think it should be like that for everything. And then to understand that this level of flow, in order for that to happen, they must begin to be present to be of within that flow. So how do you teach someone that when they come with I need? How do you do that?
Well, I just think the first thing is to set the energy. So if you're starting something new or a meeting, now this could be your boss. So this might not be as easy. If it is your boss or somebody that you can't really just sit with, I think just visualizing before they come in, or if you know they're coming in, or if they come in and you're not expecting it, ground yourself. First thing you do is put your feet on the ground. Just really feel your feet on the ground, even with shoes on. Just think about the earth coming up your legs with vines and really grounding you all the way up over your knees, over your thighs, and really just grounding you in your hips. You can bring it all the way up to your shoulders and even head if you want to. And you can do that without saying a word. So you can visualize the grounding, the Mother Earth, like really kind of holding you in the vines of love. And honestly, like you don't even have to say anything. You could just sit there feeling grounded and feel like your whole body is covered in vines and beautiful flowers, and you could just smile. And they could come in a wave and be like, blah, 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 blah. Make sure you understand what they're asking you. I'd be like, okay, so what I hear you saying is 1, 2, 3. And make sure you know your deadlines, because if you're at work, this can be really challenging, but you've got to make sure that you're present and that you
Yes.
just get the nuts out of the conversation that you need to take with you. If you have a customer situation, a family situation, something that you can actually interject your voice, you could ground the both of you with your voice, just like I did, like putting your feet on the ground, your hands on your thighs, moving your feet up and down, and let's just get a minute and be in the energy together so we have this pure and clean energy that we can have this amazing exchange. Can we do that? I mean, who's going to say no, right? And if they do say no, they might be somebody you want to put on your list of moving out of that frequency. But you can just really set it up where you're starting to be a person that grounds every time you start a conversation,
Yes.
whether you do it in your head or verbally if they're welcome to it. And I
Yes.
think, it's going to be only a matter of time. Two things are going to happen. People are going to lean into you or lean away from you. Either way, there is no wrong answer. There's no bad energy. It just is. That's where you're at. And you can pull the right energy to you.
I love that. I love that. Now, you've written 3 books.
Yeah.
Please give us the name of the first one.
The first one's called The Working Woman's GPS, when the plan to have it all leads you astray.
Oh my. GPS. Uh-huh. Got that.
The second book is Accelerate Your Impact, which is written really for women that want more impact but don't know how to get it, because there's a difference of working in your career and on your career. And did a lot of research around that book to really help women get the inside track in making their professional goals a reality. The first book, The Working Woman's GPS, I had kids in my 30s, and holy cow, that was a lot. And so
How many?
no one tells you. There's no cliff notes on it. And it really is kind of how I lost myself in the process of saying so many yeses. And how do you get that back when you're a young mom, especially a working young mom?
Yes.
And then my third book, which is really the most vulnerable book I've written, is called Seeking. And Seeking has 74 key findings to raise your energy, sidestep your self-doubt, and align with your life's work. And it really is such a gift that this came through me, because it is information that I wish I had a long time ago to really give myself permission to dig into my relationships, understand my relationship with money, overcome my perfectionism, and listen to the whispers.
Oh, I love that. So how many children do you have?
I have 2 children, 2
Oh my
teenagers.
goodness. Oh, you're busy.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you were talking about the Working Women's GPS. And yeah, I think our daughter, I had her at, I think I was 30. And I was like, I lost myself too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how come nobody ever tells you that you will lose yourself in a marriage? And being a parent, and then trying to do the school stuff, volunteering at the school, then trying to work, then trying to do this, and trying to live up to the perfect wife, and pleasing everybody, and then you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, because when it hit me, I was like, I remember crawling to the bathroom floor and just crying, laying there in a fetal position, crying. I was like, what am I doing? How is this? And of course, I'll take our daughter to the bus stop. She's doing fine. And because I'll get up in the morning and smile, put out the good face and get her there, come home. Because I had a business then, I will come home, crawl into bed. And then I'll set the alarm
Mm.
by 2 o'clock. And I was like, oh, she'll be coming home soon. Okay, let me go take a shower, put some makeup on, look good, smile, you know, practice the smiling in the mirror and make sure it looks real. And I was like, okay, all right, let's go to the bus stop and get her. And I kept doing that. And then one day, I don't know what happened. Something told me it's going to be better than this. This is not it.
No. But no one tells you. And it's just like, I actually ended up, that's how I started my women's group, is I brought women together because I needed women 5, 10 years ahead of me to tell me what is going on, because nobody shared with me, one, how hard it was going to be,
Yeah.
two, how emotional, I didn't take care of myself. It was
Mm-hmm.
emotional. And then like how much like your spouse you want to, I mean, that was really hard too. And I found that like I needed to refine who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the base of that book. And GPS stands for goals, purpose, self, because it's really, you've got to remember what your goals are. You have to align with your own purpose, and you have to pick yourself sometimes, because it's just really hard to do that as a young mom, especially an older young mom. I
Yeah.
think sometimes because you're so used to doing for others, then you take on all these yeses, and now you're
Yeah.
just engulfed in so many to-dos.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
so agree. Well, I can't wait for our audience to hear this, and of course, to come to you, because I could see people who are seeking right now, and those who are feeling lost. And please, mothers, if you're feeling lost, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You can certainly go and seek answers, ask questions, reach out, ask JJ, sorry, how do I do this? And I can assure you, she will probably give you say, hey, you need to do this, just like how she was told, go to mindfulness and figure out what is going on, because we need help, and the village is here to provide that help, to provide that guide. But you must first reach out. You cannot stay in that bathroom floor. You
Yeah.
cannot stay in that bed day in and day out and saying, nobody understands. Nobody will hear me. Does anybody even care? We do. And I can assure you, JJ, let us know how we can reach you. How
So you
people
can
can
find
find
me on, yes, you can find me on most social platforms under JJ DiGeronimo, DiGeronimo. You can also find me on Amazon with my book Seeking, or Accelerate Your Impact, or The Working Woman's GPS. And one of my favorite places that I show up live every other week is togetherweseek.online. And
you.
that's where I introduce energy practitioners and practices to you. We put them in a podcast, and we also have the video available to you so that you can start learning about new ways to connect with yourself.
Okay, I need to get that straight. Together
We
we
seek
seek dot
dot online.
dot online. Okay, good. And then I'm gonna ask you the last question. Knowing what you know now, if you had a chance to speak to your younger self, give her advice, pass on knowledge, wisdom, what would that be?
It's very simple. Enjoy every step, every stage. Don't be so much in a hurry to get to the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much wisdom, lessons, and honestly joy where you are right now.
Yeah.
And just enjoying those moments, because you will get to where you're going one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is a process. It is a process, and you're part of the process. So enjoy the journey.
I love it. Thank you so much. And listen, I feel like we just literally touched the tip of the iceberg. I feel like we could talk forever. But I
Mhm.
know that we all have busy days, you have things to do, you have meetings to get to. But consider coming back so that we can do more and share more and also reach our sisters who are struggling, because
I would love that.
yeah, it's from one sister to another. We've both walked that tough path and feeling lost. And it's possible to step out and find your path again, except this one is the right path. It's not what you've been trying to dig yourself out, but rather the path that you belong to in the first place all along. The tribe is waiting, and the village is ready to help uplift all our sisters. So please make sure you reach out. Don't suffer alone. Don't struggle alone. Don't get so frustrated that you feel like there's no way out. There is. And let me tell you, JJ will get it done. She will get you through it. Thank you so much for coming. And I love, believe me, and like I said, you go and find a book, get it on Amazon, and read it. And then when you read it, please share it with your sisters, share it with everyone, and let your daughters know. I wish people had told us that we will get lost in the marriage, but it's always, oh, you get happy ever after. It's just blissful. Yeah, okay. So
It's
thank you
true.
so much, and I appreciate you coming. May you continue to be blessed and continue to touch the lives of our sisters who are walking in this terrain thinking that it's just dark, but there's so much light, there's so much love, and all they have to do is embrace that love. And I promise them it's for them, it belongs to them. And it starts with loving thyself and recognizing that peace within has always been there all along. We just need to tap into it. Thank you and be blessed.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and you take care. I can't wait. Oh, I'm excited.
I can't wait. Keep me posted. Keep me posted, and
I
let's
will.
schedule a time I can have you with me on my podcast. I would love that.
Yes, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. So, thank you. And of course, it's been an amazing journey. And I can't say any more because this podcast has been amazing. Once again, my name is Rhoda Aglago. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. I am excited and happy about this podcast. So may you continue to do well and love for everyone. We'll see you again. Take care. Those who want to write to me, my email address is LUV, the number 4, give, GIV, live, LIVE, at gmail.com. And once again, the name is Rhoda Aglago. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. I love you all. Bye bye.